have a busy week this week. Besides presenting in the Chat Funnels Demand Gen Summit, I have conversations with potential partners and vendors that can help us scale our personal ABM and account-based enablement programs. I'm also speaking to the SVP of Sales and Marketing at a SaaS B2B startup that focuses on applying conversational AI to the supply chain industry to remove the gaps between planning and execution that lead to stockouts, higher inventory costs, and reduced on-time in-full performance or service performance to customers. And while the company does have some competitors in the space, its main competitor is the status quo, as 80% of the business decisions are made without insights. The supply chain industry is used to dealing with distributed teams, disconnected systems, and manual reporting as the industry as a whole resists change, even though supply chains around the world faced unprecedented disruptions in the past few years. 78% of challenger sellers feel their toughest customer objections are the status quo objections. Status quo objections equal customer resistance to changing their current approach to solving a problem. To accelerate growth after the company's recent $4 million funding round, this SVP will need to strengthen the go-to-market strategy, improve the customer journey, and implement new processes. His team will need to capture demand for their one-of-a-kind solution that received a patent last year, and they will need to have a process in place to accelerate in-market accounts to revenue. He'll need a process that enables the go-to-market teams to create demand and a buying vision with those accounts that are stuck in the status quo. And he'll need a process that increases deal sizes, provides margin growth, and creates more profitable revenue growth with existing accounts. You see, ABM is not about sourcing the pipeline. It's about getting key accounts that can provide your company with the greatest revenue growth for today and tomorrow. I've seen too many teams mainly use ABM to source the pipeline, but they're challenged to drive stage progression and win with higher deal values. For example, a call center conversational AI firm that has deal sizes in the 500K mark or 500K range came to Personal ABM because they were building a pipeline of accounts using demand-based, but they were challenged with those accounts going dark. And while I reviewed their content, we were able to see why they're not driving stage progression. They focused their content on the buying journey. So they were focused on awareness, consideration, purchase, versus what the go-to-market teams would need to have to do to win the account, create demand, capture demand, progress that demand, and convert it, or close the deals, retain demand, and also expand that demand. ABM is not about building awareness. We need to create demand by reframing accounts that can buy the greatest revenue growth. We need to capture that demand and build a consensus. We need to accelerate the demand and drive urgency so we can move accounts to revenue. And of course, we need to then close the deal. At best, the company's awareness content was thought curation, and at its worst, it was thought regurgitation. There was no clear point of view. There was no teaching for differentiation, no driving change with the status quo, and it didn't align with the go-to-market team's target accounts. One of their tier one banks, they were targeting banks, this particular organization, had an initial engagement and with a huge IT team that developed, integrated, and is now expanding the capabilities of AI or their virtual assistant program, which is named Erica. They received hundreds of patents this year that focus on AI, so obviously that's a big focus for them. Awareness content and generic consideration content is not going to move this account forward. Our clients needed to show the gaps in the bank's current system and how it's creating challenges in the use cases that our client is focusing on, which is collections, complaint management, and compliance. They needed to show the bank that they understand the bank's strategic vision, their product roadmap for their AI or Erica, the desires of the bank's 8 different lines of business, the impact that our client can have, and why the bank should outsource versus spend time and resources on having their internal team implement these changes that our client would make. When it comes to status quo accounts, we need to drive greater personal relevance, teach for differentiation through stories versus just making the same baseless claims, and make an emotional connection, reframe thoughts and ideas, and show a new way. Unfortunately, most content does not do this, and it's why most content does not support ABM, nor the selling conversation that GTM teams need to have with specific accounts. And it's one of the reasons why accounts go dark after initial engagement. I mentioned in a previous Chat Funnel Summit presentation that Cassandra Jowett, who's Path Factory's Senior Director of Marketing, likes to compare the buyer's journey to a game that kids play. It's called The Floor is Lava. They have a series on Netflix as well. Just check it out. You have all these jumping points to get buyers to the safe harbor, and you want to make sure that they don't fall into the lava halfway through their journey. You want buyers to jump from one rock to the next one and so on, and you want to lay out the path to revenue in a very clear way for them. The problem is that most GTM teams do not lay out the path because they focus on sourcing that pipeline, which is what demand generation should do, not ABM. Instead of accelerating higher deal values to revenue faster and actually create higher deal sizes. They're not focused on the interactions that need to happen and the experiences that should be delivered once accounts are in the pipeline. For example, a UK ITSM firm was failing to create a path to revenue. Leadership at this UK ITSM analytics SaaS firm had the vision of creating a new category. In their case, it was Capacity Planning as a Service, or CPaaS. And they wanted to become an international player like VMware. But as 451 research indicated in their report, the ITSM firm would have to break out of its finance niche category. They needed to create demand for a new product in a new category into new markets. So they brought in a PR firm to drive greater awareness for this new category. They invested in intent data platforms like 6sense and Demandbase for their ABM tech. The firm was able to drive awareness and pipeline growth, but there was limited stage progression and revenue improvement. The ITSM firm tried to retrofit their lead process, their lead technology, and most importantly, their lead reporting in and around what already existed for their new ABM reporting and approach. They did not build that foundation that is needed to see stronger revenue growth from ABM. There was still a handoff between GTM and customer-facing teams versus that handshake, where there's alignment, integration, and orchestration. As Sangram Vahri, who's co-founder of Terminus, likes to say, modern B2B leaders talk about engagement in the target accounts, their go-to-market strategy, and the ways to win the deals as one team. They miss the fact that ABM should change sell processes and motions. If sales is not fully prepared to go all in with enablement and sales orchestration in a digital world, then you're missing the mark. They did not have the right content to support ABM, sales, and the selling conversations that teams needed to have with their future customers. The PR firm drove awareness for the category, which was tech-focused and not business issue-focused, so it did not help drive change. And like 86% of content and messaging that sales and marketing teams push out, the content had no commercial impact on the buyer. While the ITSM firm defined their ICP, they did not segment their ICP into tiers or different layers of accounts. So they treated all opportunities the same. They gave everyone the same attention, the same focus, the same approach, no matter if that prospect was a tier 1 or a larger account or a tier 3. There was no strategy for how the go-to-market teams would use intent data and open, engage, and close in-market accounts that 6sense and other intent data platforms would identify for them. They had a list of activities and cadences. There was no coordination between sales and marketing. This ITS firm did not have the right content and messaging to move accounts forward. Sales and go-to-market teams soon discovered that about 4 out of 5 targeted companies outside of the financial industry lacked senior executive understanding of the business issue that this particular ITSM firm was trying to solve with their on-demand cloud-based capacity planning subscription service. Senior executives did not see how their IT teams, how the business, how their operations, P&L, and even customers were impacted by their infrastructure visibility gaps or the manual IT processes, or with homegrown technologies and inadequate tools like VMware. They were only looking at current infrastructure performance issues versus where infrastructure challenges will lie in the months ahead. More importantly, they did not see the business issues or how those business issues were related to them because content and messaging focused on general industry assumptions and pain points. Their one-to-many and one-to-few campaigns missed the personal relevance needed to win over IT teams, the C-suite, and the CFO that did not see a reason to change. More personal relevance is needed to move accounts forward. As Matthew Dixon and Brent Adamson mentioned in their book, The Challenger Sale, in most cases, buyer unresponsiveness is not because you failed to make a logical argument. It's because you failed to make an emotional connection. It's not that the buyers didn't believe your story. It's because they didn't see it as their story. The sales and marketing team did not align their content and messaging with the specific retailer, airline, and online service accounts that they wanted to win. As Doug Landis mentioned in a recent Forbes article, when selling to larger companies, you must come to every social, email, and live conversation with a point of view about their business. You have to know what they're focused on, as those strategic initiatives for the business will trickle down to every department across the organization. They needed more than persona-based content and messaging. The airliners, retailers, and online service firms needed to see their specific gaps and how they would impact their strategic initiatives' success. IT buyers need to see that you understand their business landscape, their company, their needs, and what they will need for each stage of their buying process. Top to bottom, left to right engagement was needed to move accounts to revenue. In many cases, go-to-market teams were single-threaded with the IT managers that were responsible for capacity management. They were not penetrating accounts and building relationships with those VPs or CTOs or CIOs across multiple channels, including LinkedIn. They were not extending beyond IT managers to drive engagement with business strategy, customer success, or even finance teams. These teams could have provided the insights that GTM teams needed to make a stronger case for capacity management and show how IT was misaligned with business objectives. The GTM teams were not able to influence the internal conversations that sales was not privy to, and have teams discuss how last-minute reactions to threshold crossings impacted IT finance, IT security, IT operations, e-commerce, revenue, and customers. The content did not support the selling conversations. Besides the right content, they were missing the required account-based engagement that's needed to move accounts forward. Account-based engagement is how you can make your future customers feel with each interaction and each touch point along the journey and their life cycle. It's about how you create a team-to-team connection and multi-thread to ensure deals are closed, there's adoption, retention, and even expansion. It's about building meaningful, intentional relationships and making a connection with the human buyers at the accounts that you want to win and grow. I talked about this at last year's Account-Based Engagement Summit. You can see the presentation and other chat funnel presentations at personalabm.com. Just go to the Resources tab and click on Past ABM Event Recordings. For stage progression to happen, the ITSM firm needed greater customer alignment. As Richie Panda, who's Global Head of ABM and Content Strategy at HP, mentioned on LinkedIn, ABM demands absolute customer obsession. Demand gen and strategies are pursuit-led, whereas ABM is customer-led. This means value props should be designed by customer needs, not what's available in solutions stable to sell. Value props should be custom designed to the unique opportunity in each account. This ITSM firm needed to look at profiles, meaning LinkedIn profiles, content and messaging, and all communication channels to ensure that go-to-market teams were relevant at each touch point and with each interaction. They needed to go beyond pushing out content based on intent data and what potential customers engage with, which they saw in their demand-based campaigns. They needed to uncover that why there was intention or engagement in the first place, so they can align with the target's strategic account vision and put a plan in place to get the C-suite, since the VPs and aboves are not the ones showing intention within enterprise accounts. They needed to use intent data and engagement as a springboard versus something to react to. They also needed to uncover what's behind the prospect's intent and specifically what's their $1 million headache on both an account and personal level. They also needed to uncover what's going on within the organization and the different divisions that can impact operational excellence, customers, and even the P&L. And they also need to uncover what their account-specific or competitor-specific focus gaps that were not being considered and the personal impacts which may be being underestimated. It's this information that helped the sales and marketing teams speak to the human buyers within the target accounts and create a personal buying journey that helped target accounts move forward through the different stages. Above all, the ITSM firm needed to change its mindset to drive growth. They needed to slow down to speed up and get the strategy right. This means we need to focus them on increasing their relevance across all channels, including LinkedIn profiles, content, messaging that needed to speak to specific decision makers that teams want to connect with. We needed to focus them on changing their sales and marketing motions across the buying journey, as it doesn't matter how many accounts you initially engage with if they do not progress towards revenue. We need to have the right sales and marketing conversations, and we need to take the right calculated steps together. We also needed to focus on taking a more personal account-based approach where they align with their future customers, their business, and their needs, and improve interactions before going for scale. Because the ITSM firm changed its focus to improve interactions along the buying journey and accelerate accounts to revenue, this ITSM's go-to-market teams were able to gain new customer logos like GoDaddy, JCPenney, British Airways, and others. They were able to create partnerships with companies like ServiceNow, IBM, DXC Technology, VMware, which recognized its own gaps, and many others. They became an international player that positioned themselves for acquisition. Now this ITS firm is now part of a larger firm that has 800 clients worldwide relying on their IT estate monitoring, capacity planning, analytics, and load testing platforms. This new larger firm has offices through North America, UK, Europe, Nordic, Benelux, and Asian Pacific regions. As I discussed in past chat funnels presentations and in my ABM Done Right podcast and in the conversations I've started on LinkedIn, ABM should not be about building the pipeline. It should be about fixing the business issues that are keeping tier 1 accounts from getting to revenue and existing accounts to greater revenue. So you can fix the issues, drive stage progression, and greater revenue and growth, I encourage you to connect with me. I'm Kristina Jaramillo, president of Personal ABM. And you can see the spelling of my name below, just so that you can get it right, because it's Kristina with a K. I also encourage you to check out Personal ABM and see our past chat funnel presentations, our ABM Done Right podcast, and schedule a free ABM strategy session.